We are live. We are live. Welcome, everyone. This is the Hacks Chat. I haven't done this in a while, so we got Mike Barron here, writer extraordinaire. We have Chris Brawley of is it Brayley? How do you say
It's
your name?
brawly, like a
Is it
barroom
Brawley?
brawl, very
Okay,
brawly.
because I've seen it with like a W. Isn't Brawley or Brawley sometimes spelled with a W?
It's pronounced that way, but if you don't go to Urban Dictionary and look up my last name, at least not work. I promise you, you
Okay.
don't want to do that.
Because every time I spell it, even for this show, I put a W in there, and I was like, I don't think there's a W in there.
I
Yeah.
don't mind. I don't. When bill collectors used to call me in my 20s, they would ask for Brayley, and I would say, "No one here answers by that name," and hang up. I
Yeah.
still felt
Well,
very honest about it.
yeah. Well, growing up, I was Thibert or Thiebert. It was not T Bear, so that's why I do it like the T and the dash Bear, so people can go, oh, okay, that's how you say the name.
That's a cool name. Baron is very easy to know, but T Bear and Brawley, we're sort of the outliers.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. So yeah, so we're here to celebrate Thin Blue Line. It's the new graphic novel by Mike Barron, and it's kicking ass. And when did you guys go live? Was it yesterday? Day
No, about
before?
an hour or two ago. You're the
Oh
first stream
shit!
since we've been live. You are our inaugural stream. I don't even
Oh
know where
man!
we're at right now. We got to at least be at $30. I know we've sold one. My mother called and said,
Then she backed it.
"Yeah, oh, we're over $1,000 already. Wonderful, man."
Well, you guys want to go right to the campaign so people will have kind of a
Sure.
starting point, and then it'll be easier lifting or less heavy lifting after that. Pictures say a lot.
Amen.
Images are louder than words. All right, let's go. Here we go. This is it. This is Thin Blue Line, you guys. This is the graphic novel by Mike Barron. And Chris, what do you do on the book? Are you like managing it? Are you writing it with Mike? What do
Uh,
you do?
well, I have a little bit of editorial oversight, but it's mostly just suggestions to Mike. When the book was being put together, he came to me, and he had already talked to Joseph Arnold, and Jeff Slemons, the penciler and inker, and the work was done. There was a little bit of verbiage that I talked with Mike about as we were having some campaign pages lettered. We wanted to have a few pages lettered. Actually, we had them lettered for some of the comic book companies. We reached out to several that Mike has worked for and others that we thought that the book might be a good fit for. And so we had several pages lettered and so on. I'm really just managing it. Promotion's kind of been my thing, and Mike and I had a really great experience succeeding with Florida Man, which Mike did with your buddy Todd Mulrooney. Very
Yeah, that was a great campaign, you guys. I backed that book. It was a fun read.
Yeah, a lot of fun, and that thing's still kind of there's still life in that project. But right now we're focusing on not a funny book, but Mike wanted to go back to street level crime like his Punisher run, and I think he's done it in a really unique way that also has diversity and inclusion. Those important attributes. So,
Oh yeah, especially contemporarily.
amen.
It has a few jokes.
Yes, yes. So raging mobs burn down the city as two cops fight for their community and for their very survival. So let's check out this video and see what it's all about. PG-13.
Beginning with issue number 1, Mike Barron wrote Marvel's The Punisher for over 5 years, approaching it as a straight crime comic, without any superheroes, aliens, or robots. Over the course of 60 issues, Barron elevated the gritty anti-hero into one of the most popular and enduring characters in the Marvel Comics universe. Now he brings that same ultra-realistic intensity to his latest graphic novel, Thin Blue Line. In the middle of a long hot summer, a police shooting ignites the city. Activists, opportunists, and provocateurs descend to riot, loot, burn, and kill. Thin Blue Line follows Officer Valeria Baca and her partner as their detail guarding the mayor turns into a battle for survival. Ride along on this harrowing tale of two brave law enforcement officers fighting for their community and their own survival in a world gone mad. Eisner winner Mike Barron has created an alarming tale of uncontrolled and smooth fallibility on every level. Along with penciler Joe Arnold, himself a full-time police officer, and talented inker Jeff Clemens. They've created a moving and entertaining story ripped straight from today's headlines. Thin Blue Line exposes the defund the police movement and its consequences for society, but several comic book companies have refused to publish it. Now we're asking you to join the effort to distribute it independently and help support the men and women of law enforcement. Get your copy of the only graphic novel to offer an unflinching and not always flattering look at the men and women of law enforcement during a time when we need them the most. Not all heroes wear capes. It's a thin blue line between the rule of law and a world of chaos. Which side are you on? Thin Blue Line by Mike Barron. Order now on Indiegogo.
Wow, that looks fantastic. That looks fantastic. So you got 11 backers, 509, but I think we've gone up since then. Oh shit! Wow, that looks fantastic. That looks fantastic. So you got
Thin Blue.
Art, I gotta ask you a question, and this might be a boomer question, okay?
okay. Oh shit! Wow.
I don't think the video played.
So
No, I didn't see the video.
oh my gosh, all that stuff. Okay, well let me.
Video play.
Yeah, let me try this again.
Is this where I say "Okay, boomer"? Is that what's happening?
Why is this not? Oh, there it goes. It's on a delay. That was weird. Okay, so let me do this again. So can you see the page now?
Yeah, we can see the page. The video thing is the size of a postage stamp here.
Oh, I thought I hit. No, okay. So could you hear it, or do you want me to
hear it?
Yeah.
Well, let's see if we can do this again. So can you see it now? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Wow, this is what I did before. This is so weird.
Mike Barron wrote Marvel's The Punisher for over 5 years, approaching it as a straight crime comic, without any superheroes, aliens, or robots. Over the course of 60 issues, Barron elevated the gritty anti-hero into one of the most popular and enduring characters in the Marvel Comics universe. Now he brings that same ultra-realistic intensity to his latest graphic novel, Thin Blue Line. In the middle of a long, hot summer, a police shooting ignites the city. Activists, opportunists, and provocateurs descend to riot, loot, burn, and kill. Thin Blue Line follows Officer Valeria Baca and her partner as their detail guarding the mayor turns into a battle for survival. Ride along on this harrowing tale of two brave law enforcement officers fighting for their community and their own survival in a world gone mad. Eisner winner Mike Barron has created an alarming tale that unflinchingly examines human fallibility on every level. Along with penciler Joe Arnold, himself a full-time police officer, and talented inker Jeff Clemens, they've created a moving and entertaining story ripped straight from today's headlines. Thin Blue Line exposes the defund the police movement and its consequences for society, but several comic book companies have refused to publish it. Now we're asking you to join the effort to distribute it independently and help support the men and women of law enforcement. Get your copy of the only graphic novel to offer an unflinching and not always flattering look at the men and women of law enforcement during a time when we need them the most. Not all heroes wear capes. It's a thin blue line between the rule of law and a world of chaos. Which side are you on? Thin Blue Line by Mike Barron. Order now on Indiegogo.
Okay, you did see it that time, right?
Sure.
Oh, good. Well, man, that stepped all over the reveal of you just about tripled your numbers from the time we started. So you were at like 504, and now you're 1,134. You got 14 backers, and like you said, you just launched this bad boy, so you're off to a great start.
What a kickoff, man! Thank you, Art.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's my pleasure to have you guys on. You kidding? Any chance to talk to you guys? Mike Barron is a living legend.
Amen.
So Thin Blue Line. What got you motivated, Mike, to write this?
Well, I always say I don't choose my stories choose me. Uh, and that was true with Florida Man because every time I went online, there was a new absurd Florida Man story. So at some point I said, well, hell, somebody has to write about this guy. And it was true with Thin Blue Line because, as you know, last summer, the United States erupted in riots, overwhelmingly in blue cities. And there were no consequences for the rioters. You saw them out there every night. They weren't social distancing, they weren't wearing their masks. They caused billions of dollars in damage. They destroyed thousands of small businesses, many of them minority owned. Uh, and no charges were ever pressed. And then the police, during the course of this, a number of politicians thought it would be a good idea to just do away with the police. What do you need police for?
Yeah.
And it just struck me as so insane that only a modern person who lived a life of ease could come up with such a notion. Civilization depends on the rule of law. I shouldn't have to say that. It should be axiomatic, and they should teach it in schools, but they don't. Uh,
Right.
without the rule of law, without people respecting each other, civilization.
Or more importantly, being forced to respect each other. You know what I mean? Because there are people that just won't respect. There are people that will respect each other just because that's how they are. But there are people that won't. So yeah, you do have to set up rules, regulations, and then consequences for those if they're broken.
That's
And
right. And there are a
yeah,
lot of laws against unruly behavior, drunk and disorderly. There are even laws in some cities regarding language, and I don't go along with that because, as with everything, it's a matter of degree. And another matter is that I know a number of police officers. I've dealt with police officers. When my late wife died, uh, they were nothing but sympathetic and helpful. And most of the police officers are civic minded individuals who join the force because they want to make a difference. Uh,
yeah, they sincerely want to do good. Yeah,
yes,
and
they do.
a lot of them when they're not on duty, they donate time to their
They
city.
volunteer. They
Yeah,
volunteer. My wife Ann just had an awards ceremony for ordinary, extraordinary people, and one of the winners is Michael Walker, a policeman here in town, who volunteers ceaselessly. And I know another police officer friend of mine in Arizona, Mark Schweikert, who runs a comic convention each year to raise money for the homeless. And he's raised thousands and thousands of dollars for them. Now, of course, there are bad apples. There are a few people who go into police because of the power it gives them and the ability to extort. But
right.
I would say the percentage of policemen like that are a great deal less than the percentage of politicians who follow the same path. So I recognized that this was the stuff of drama. This is the stuff of the reason police, lawyer, and medical shows have ruled television for the past 50 years is because they're life and death stories, and that's the stuff of drama, and people crave drama. So I thought, well, this is just fruit ripe for the plucking. Nobody has dealt with this subject.
And nobody
We
will deal with this. There's no way TV is going to deal with this, and there's no way movies of today are going to deal with this either. Not in an honest way, not like you're dealing with it.
no.
Art, I think that's an important point because Mike's constantly writing. He does novels. He does other comic books. His Buddy McGill, TSA agent puppy dog comic just hit shelves last month. So,
No. It's going to come out just before Thanksgiving.
okay, this month. Yeah, this month coming. And it was just in previews last month. Well, so when he came to me with this story, my mom used to work for the DA's office here. I back the blue. I'm supportive of cops. I've been arrested too, just for the record, in case anybody needs to know that. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey, Chris, I'm raising my hand as well. I've been
okay,
arrested.
fair.
Bad language, right, guys?
That's right.
But you know what? I was a jerk. I was an asshole, and I deserve to be arrested.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chris Rock made a great video that I try to follow now. When I get pulled over, my hands are above the wheel or even out the door, and I'm very polite It takes nothing to be polite to a law enforcement officer. And every time they approach a car, there's the potential that someone's on the run or hates cops and is going to try to shoot them. I get it. It's a dangerous job. And so when Mike came to me, the story is so powerful. I said, man, we got to at least try to get a publisher interested. And Art, I'm ashamed to admit it, none of them, none will touch it.
Yeah, hey, Chris, I applaud you trying.
Yeah.
But you pretty much knew it wasn't going to happen going into it, right?
But think about it. This is the guy that wrote The Punisher, the very first ongoing comic series for 5 years, the street crime anti-hero vigilante that's basically cleaning up the streets violently.
Right, that's all pretend, Chris. That's pretend. That's Marvel. This is real. These are real people,
Yeah.
or at least like real situations, and cops are real, that type of thing.
Oh, maybe we should have had her fighting climate change or something.
Yeah, I think as long as it feels like it's a fantasy, then they're all about it.
Hey, now climate change is no fantasy. Maybe the cultural climate is what's actually changing, but I digress.
Yeah. I also want to point out that for anybody who's familiar with my work, my number one rule is it's my job to entertain. This is not a jihad, a lecture, or a proclamation at all. This story will grab you on the first page and you won't be able to put it down because it's a really good story.
Yeah, it's not propaganda. I mean, this
No.
is kind of common sense stuff. This is almost like just more of, what do we say, realistic? It sounds weird the way I'm gonna phrase this, but it's realistic in like of what's really happening versus the way it's being spun. Like you said, like defund the police. How insane is that?
Yeah.
This is really our first line between just insanity, anarchy, and sanity. And so when people are talking about defund the law, that sounds like fantasy. That sounds like a made up thing. Those used to be kind of cautionary tales. I say this all the time. We used to tell stories like sci-fi stories, which were cautionary tales of science gone wrong, or things like that. And so now it's kind of like we're living these Orwellian kind of realities. You know what I mean? This is not like reality. Seems like fantasy versus like this stuff.
Yeah.
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's really strange, Art. And the thing is you're right. This book is not. I mean, there's a political element to it in that it doesn't shy away from the fact that this is going on, that there's rioting and there's defund the police out there. But what you've got a police officer, and she's just a single mom trying to do her job. And she's in the midst of things that are actually going on, right? So Aquaman is fighting the melting glaciers over in D.C., and this cop, this Hispanic single mother, is fighting crime and rioting and provocateurs that are taking advantage of the upheaval. And it's so entertaining. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. And I love the way it ends. And Mike's right. There's no sermons in this. There's no preaching. There's no massive info dump with word balloons all up and down the page talking about praising cops. I mean, there's some elements of cops that have some ethics issues in this. The cops aren't lifted up as martyrs in this. They're not lifted up as these perfect heroes either. But it does kind of give you that sense of when Marvel made a name for themselves having these flawed heroes, but they were flawed superheroes. Well, these heroes may be super, but they don't wear capes, and they're flawed too. It's very entertaining.
Well, the thing is, like, this is why, like, there's just a lack of reality, and I cannot believe that I'm the guy that sees this, because I always thought, like, I have one foot in reality and one foot in fantasy. That's most of my thought work is just like how to tell superhero stories. You know what I mean? Like I'm not that guy, but yet you see what's happening, and then you feel like you're the only guy that understands what's going on. You understand the way the world is supposed to work. Not the way it's working now, but the way it's supposed to work, the way it's always worked. When you have people that are ashamed, that are Americans, that are ashamed to be an American, and that actually say, because there was one problem slavery in this country. So then that overrides every aspect of our evolution as Americans.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is the weird thing, is that there's good and bad in everything.
Yeah.
And there's shades of every in between. That's people. There are good cops and there are bad cops. But like Mike said, the majority of them are good, because if they weren't, you would hear about it a lot more. Trust me, you would hear about it all the time.
Yes,
So,
because the media exists to attack our society. I also feel that people who feel as we do, that you're either for the rule of law or you're not, and that it's essential for civilization, we're in the minority. I mean, excuse me, we're in the majority. But most people have their hands full doing their job,
Yeah.
taking care of their family, and kicking back on weekends and rooting for their favorite football team. But there is a certain class of people that spends every waking minute scheming how to get power over others.
Or
And
just to
those people
spite.
go into politics.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. And I believe you, Mike, that there are more people who are like-minded like us, but they're just not as unabid and loud about it. Most people are just trying to live their lives, spend time with
Because
their
they're well
family, do their
adjusted.
hobbies.
The well adjusted person doesn't
Exactly.
turn everything into politics.
right. Well, they say, like, the silent majority, which is like what I think you're talking about, in this culture war that we're having right now. Everybody's predicting that silent majority are the ones that are going to decide, whether we sink or swim. And I think the silent majority, once they kind of figure out what's going on, I do think things are going to shift back to some kind of normalcy. And when I say normalcy, I just mean like decency, like Mike's saying, like, just, we need the police.
Civilization.
We need these laws. We need these rules. My wife and I raised a child. We understand, like, cause and effect. Like there are certain. This is the way things work. Okay, you have a kid, and society works the same way. It's a microcosm, right? So your kid, you tell them not to do something, or these are the rules, right? You lay out the rules, and then they get to decide whether they break them or not, right? So then let's say they break them. It's the first offense. So then you go, okay, well, don't do this ever again. And if you do, then you're going to stand in the corner, right? And so then they go, okay, then they have a decision to make, right? They can do it again, but they'll have to stand in the corner. And so then they do it again, and you make them stand in the corner. Then you say after that, well, I'm going to take away your TV privileges. You know what I mean? So you just kind of keep ramping it up. And so that's kind of how law works. Like if you do certain things, certain offenses in society, then you pay a certain price for that. And most people know the rules. So when they break the rules, they know damn well what they're doing, and they know the consequences. And so I think, as far as a way to govern ourselves and look after each other, I think it's the best system ever, that's ever been invented. And as long as law isn't bastardized, as long as lawyers aren't running amok, and judges aren't, on the take and things like that, as long as things can stay pure and they can stay what they were designed to be, and they're not bastardized, I think the system works. Where we have to fight is when the system breaks down, when there are these corrupt individuals, cops, judges, lawyers, things like that. And then we work from the inside, and we clean house, and then we get the good guys in and we get the bad guys out. But there's always going to be good and bad in everything. There's good and bad people everywhere.
Yeah.
Why would we think that there weren't going to be bad cops or bad politicians?
Right.
But at the same time, why wouldn't we think there would be really good ones as well?
I think most politicians are sociopaths.
I agree, because I think the only ones that would get into that profession, have to be. And I heard Dennis Prager say, because they asked him, like, would you ever run for president? Because, he seems like a really wise person and stuff. He goes, I could never do it. And I said, why? He said, because I can't lie. And politicians have to lie, because there's certain things they know that it isn't, like, if you just take it, they're on the up and up, right? We're just saying that they're good people. There are things that they kind of have to keep close to the vest. There are things that they have to not talk about because of certain ramifications and things like that. So to be a politician just by nature, you can't be completely transparent and honest. So if there is a politician that says they are, they're lying.
Yeah,
But
well,
they can't.
if they're talking, they're lying, Art.
But the founding fathers never envisioned career politicians. John Adams says that our Constitution was meant only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly useless for any other type.
Right. Yes. And when you start taking religion out of the equation, which a group of ruling class people want to, then you're gonna have some problems. I heard Prager talk, like there's inalienable rights, and then he brings up like, well, who gives those inalienable rights? Where does that come from? It comes from above. Yes, it's God. And so if you don't believe in God, then things kind of start falling apart. And I'm waiting for some asshole lawyer to start bringing in Constitution and start bringing like, well, what if, like the whole God thing, like, well, if what if you don't believe in God, or you don't believe in this structure, then basically the Bill of Rights, everything that we believe in falls apart. It all becomes up for grabs. It all becomes debatable. You know what I mean? Law becomes debatable, because if there is no inalienable rights and those things don't exist, then
the state can do to you whatever it wants.
Yep,
the founding fathers, the smartest men who ever lived, and the Constitution and Bill of Rights are the pinnacle of Western civilization, and the proof is in the pudding. You don't see hundreds of thousands of people trying to break into Cuba or Venezuela. No, they're coming here because of our success and our wealth, which was created by the only nation on earth to elevate the primacy of the individual and claim that our rights are natural, that our right to free speech and everything else doesn't come from the government.
That's right.
Yeah. They don't regulate it. And it's so weird that there's a faction of our country that believes so much in their party, and they believe that if they give their party more rights and more power, then they're going to take care of the problem. It's like, holy shit, are you so naive? You are so freaking naive, because this, like you say, okay, you're like a Democrat. You think the Democrats are going to be able to save the world, but you do realize there are still Republicans that are making rules and laws and stuff too. So if you think they're so fundamentally evil, then what happens every 4 years when things shift back and forth? So then you have good for 4 years, and then you have pure evil for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. They're all essentially similar. They serve similar people.
They serve themselves. We have a government now that only serves itself.
It's ridiculous. I'm just waiting on some white hat SWAT team to start coming in and dragging people out of Congress. It's insane. I wish there was some sort of overriding purity test. Whenever any of these politicians says something, I wish some non-theocratic individual would come out and say, let's see how that lines up with the Constitution, sir.
Or a big buzzer.
Yeah, you're out. But that's not the case. Politics is just how we deal with one another. I know people like to talk about politics as far as right and left, and most of the time it seems that it's more like a pro wrestling where it's their term to be the heel, right? And people just cheer it on. But some of it is so maddening, at least on the conservative side, at least in my experience. I'm a conservative. I'm a Christian. And those aren't mutually exclusive, obviously. I think that it's like we will, at least seemingly, most of us hold our own to accountability. Like, I'll trash Mitch McConnell. I'll trash Mitt Romney. I'll say I'm not voting for that guy, or I'm going to vote for Ron Paul. Just write him in, or whatever, right? We don't just all toe the line, but that's sort of the problem with the people we're up against, is they do become this hive mind, and it makes it very difficult when our side seems splintered. And I think that the main cause we should all get behind on our side is liberty, because I think even people on both sides are all about liberty. You talk about the politics of this book and that's really not the point of this book. I mean, we do support law enforcement, and we hope that if you are a backer, if you back the blue, if you are pro law, this is the sort of book. Now, there's some foul language in it, but I mean, this might make kids really learn to respect what police go through. But even Florida Man, we mentioned Florida Man earlier. There was a transgender woman as one of the main characters of Florida Man. She was a Patrice. Black from Jamaica. We didn't make a big deal about, oh, look at the diversity and inclusion of Florida Man. Oh my God, we must celebrate such diversity. Of course not. It just served the interest of an entertaining story to have this character. And what happened was all part of this mechanism, or this Rube Goldberg machine, where the book wound up. And there's a lot of elements here too. It's, Mike, if it weren't for me, nobody would know that the main character was a Hispanic single mother. Mike just wants to tell the story, and I'm like, well, I might get the interest of Humanoids Comics, if we celebrate some diversity and inclusion. Obviously, we did not get their interest, but nonetheless, that was not enough to paint over their hatred of law enforcement. But
well, this is where I chime in when people say diversity, inclusion, all this other shit. I'm like, it's always existed.
Right.
When didn't it exist? Like as a comic book artist, there's all kinds of characters that represent all different walks of life and things like that, and it's always existed. So I don't even know where it's a complete fabrication. Could we have more of it? Well, instead of mandating it and trying to bully people into it, why don't you create it?
Yeah.
Why don't you shut up and then just create something that you want to see?
That's the second rule of storytelling. The first rule is it's my job to entertain. The second rule is to show, don't tell. And that seems simple on the face of it, not so simple in real life. Show, don't tell doesn't simply apply to your writing. It applies to life in general. If you do a good deed, do a good deed. Don't bring along a press crew and blast it all over social media.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it quietly and just know that that's the reward. That's it. That's all there is.
It's okay if other people talk about it or kind of give you a little bit of praise, but that's not why you're doing it. We've got a story coming out on Bleeding Fool in an hour from now or so, about 1:30 Eastern, of Morgan Freeman, who a couple of weeks ago, he was on a podcast with maybe it was Esquire. No, it wasn't Esquire. I can't remember which magazine he was talking about, but the woman asked him about the defund the police movement and if he supported it. And he said, absolutely not. I don't support the defund the police movement. And kind of went on a rant for 3 or 4 sentences. He didn't get angry, but he backed up his reasoning. And then today, the story is that he's actually helping out down in Alabama, where he owns some property in Gulf Shores, with the recruitment of police officers down there. So he's walking the talk, and that's really what it's all about. These people that are crying about hard, jokes that they didn't like on Netflix. I mean, good grief. It's all just ridiculousness. Get out and do something about it, or quit being a joke.
Well, the thing is, like, as far as like, oh, I'm offended. Hell, day to day, we could be offended by everything. So if we went around and just looked for stuff, and then felt like that it was like we were in our right and in our power to expose everything, it's like, could you imagine what a fucked up world we would live in if everybody did that and that was the rule of thumb? That was how the norm was. Oh my gosh. It's like, I know I'm bringing up Dennis Prager a lot, but Dennis Prager says we have an obligation as human beings not to put crap in the world. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we have an obligation to put on a good face, to go out and be good people. You can think what you want. You can go home. You can bitch about stuff to your friends and your family and whatever. But, when you're out in public, when you get a public face, be a decent person. You know what I mean? It makes the world a better place. Please, thank you. Hold doors open for people. Be kind. It doesn't take that much. But if you go around and you look for everything that's offending you, everything that's bugging you, everything that's hurting you, one, you're going to be a really grumpy, a sad person, and 2, you're going to bring that into the world. That everything that you manifest is going to be that crap. And so, yeah, you do have a moral obligation to go out and bring, some kind of joy to people. You don't, or just
Or at
not
least the
bring
civic
crap.
duty. At least be a good citizen and some civic duty. I mean, I talked to my wife the other day, and I was like, I can complain and complain, and I bet we could have a complaining marathon where we all just sort of tag each other in and go for hours and hours, and then take a break, and then Mike could complain, then you could complain. I mean, literally, and Bleeding Full constantly is complaining about all the shit that has to be shoveled, right? That just continues to pile up while these people seem to run rampant. I think the insane are running the asylum over at DC. I don't know if any authority figures are in charge over there. It seems like, but
I'll
you
be
can also praise stuff too, and I think that's what Mike tries to do with some of the projects he does.
Jim Lee's going to be in Albuquerque at the Albuquerque Comic Con the same time as I am. Jim and I are old friends. We've been on tour together. It'll be interesting to see if he says hello.
Yeah. And if he does, you got to get on this show and you got to give us a blow by blow.
I would be delighted to do that.
Yeah, ask him why he's letting Daniel Cherry destroy the legacy characters over there.
Guys, I got to bow out now.
Yeah, I know you do.
Because I got another show coming up. It's Lorena's show, Lorena the Creole Queen.
Yes, Florida woman.
Florida woman.
Yep.
And I will be appearing on her show next in about 5 minutes.
All right. Well, it was great to have you, Mike. Do you have a moment just to go back to the campaign and I can refresh, see if we got some more backers?
Sure, man.
Thanks, Art.
All right, let's do this. Okay, this is Thin Blue Line, you guys. Let me hit refresh. We got 14 backers, 1,137. Woo! Yeah, so we got 14, 15, 16, 17. We got 3 more backers just in the time that we were talking. This is really good. So this is Mike Barron's new graphic novel, Thin Blue Line. It looks fantastic. You're working with some great people too. We didn't get to talk about the covers, but you have is it Butch Guys?
Yep, Butch Guys is doing the main cover. We've got another cover that if we can unlock it, if we reach a certain stretch goal, we're going to make that the cover. If we don't reach that stretch goal, we'll at least include it as a pinup in the book. But I'd really like to make it a variant cover, and anybody that's already backed it with the original cover will have an opportunity to add that on, even maybe swap it out if I can work that out.
Okay, so this is the Sergio cover, and it's at $25K. Seems doable. Doable. And so this is the main cover, and this is Butch Guys. So this is fantastic.
That's our Lady Cop. That's our homage to DC's Lady Cop, right?
Yeah.
But so the main art is a guy that Mike's known for several years. Gabe, who just boldly quit DC Comics. They all Mike and Joe and all these guys kind of know each other. Gabe used to live out there near Fort Collins where Mike lives. And they would go to a comic shop and have these meetups with other comic pros and whatnot. And Joseph was an artist who was just there all the time, right? And so he and Mike knew each other. And Mike, thanks, Kevin. And Mike, when he found out that Joe became a full-time police officer, Joe is the penciler. Was part of the 82nd Airborne. I mean, he has served his country. He is a great kid. And I say kid because I'm over 50 and he's not. But, he's just trying to raise his family. We don't want to mention what city he's in or what precinct. It's not Fort Collins, but nonetheless, he and Mike know each other. And Mike said that he liked the kid's art style, and I kind of like it too. I shouldn't say kind of, I really do. I'm a big Ernie Chan fan. And his work reminds me of kind of a young Ernie Chan back when he was doing Savage Sword after Bashima.
Especially with the ink on it. Was it Jeff?
Jeff Clements is he is a beast. This guy is so good and really finishes it out. I think the combination is what gives it that Ernie Chan feel.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Yeah, so as soon as you said Ernie Chan, I was like, definitely the inks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
have that look.
I think that Jeff, the work he did was so good. I would almost want to do just an uncolored version, but we love Ixan. Ixan has done a couple of books now for Mike. I worked with him on Florida Man. He's really got beautiful colors, really dynamic. We're hoping to use Warren again as our letterer. But Butch, did a cover. Mike and Butch go way back. They've worked together, and Sergio too. And I like Sergio's style, but some people like Butch better, some people like Sergio better, some people like Joe better. I mean, there's just something for everybody in this. And
I got to get this from Sergio. I did a book with Sergio, and it was a Batman Wildcat for DC, and so it was kind of like an epic kind of Thunderdome kind of story where it was a bare knuckle brawl between Batman and Wildcat, right? And so it's definitely Wildcat's arena, because he's a boxer and stuff like that. So we did that. And so Sergio did caricatures of like Bo Smith. He was the writer. Sergio did a caricature of himself, and he did one of me. And we all have like boxing gloves on. And we were like, all like with the shorts on and the gloves on and stuff like that. And oh my gosh, they came out so good. And I got to get that image from Sergio because I would love to post it around. But Sergio is so good. So I did get the privilege. It was a privilege for me to ink over his pencils, and it was 3 issues of Batman Wildcat. And yes, Sergio is so good, and he's just a great guy. Like
he really is. Yeah, he's so cool. And just the Action Bible was the first time, honestly, that I ever remember his name on something, because I was like, look at this work, and I'd seen it obviously for years and just didn't pick up on it. But it was a privilege for me to work with him too.
So did you know? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. I just wanted to mention that one of the reasons that Joe was such a good fit, obviously, is because he was able to bring authenticity, being a full-time police officer, to the project, knowing the kind of gear and sort of the stuff that they work with and the situations they would be in. So I think really editorially, Joe and Mike, it was a good collaboration for it to be.
Well, there's one thing that I noticed just real quickly when I was looking at the pages is that there's fight choreography. Mm-hmm. So when the lady cop is in the dojo and they show her like with the locks and the holds and stuff like that, I think that if you're going to do this type of story, you really have to show, if this woman is going to take people down in the story, that she can do that. You know what I mean? Right. And so when you show her training and you show, because that guy was big that she was taking down the dojo, you have to kind of set those things up, especially with more reality-based story. So then when she gets in those situations, the big situations later in the story, that you can believe that she can do these things. You know what I mean? Because there is like Hollywood just kind of shoehorns things in. Like they just go, and I don't mean to sound sexist, but there is like women, there's a physical difference between men and women. There just is. Mm-hmm. And we can debate that forever, but there is. I'm sorry. Anybody that says there's not, there are some women that can kick guys' asses too. You know what I mean? Yeah. But as a general rule, men are usually stronger.
That's right.
So Hollywood just kind of does these things where they just show these women that can do anything, right? A lot of times it's not earned, or they don't show them really.
Even the new James Bond, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but
no,
there's some crazy fight scenes in there. Very sexy, very cool looking, but there's no way that woman could have pulled it off.
So try to make it believable, and even like I thought that early, like Marvel, when they brought Black Widow in, they kind of showed, I forget what fighting technique that is, but she kind of uses her weight to bring down the opponent. So she kind of climbs up on people and brings them down and stuff like that. So like a guy would be probably more stand up, and eventually the fight does. Most fights end up on the ground.
Yeah.
But it would probably start more of a stand up. But they never really showed Black Widow like, doing the pose, like, let's do this. Like, she usually runs up, she'll knock the person down, and then she'll take them down with her body weight. Right. And so, like,
I think the movies too, up until her solo movie, which was kind of outlandish.
Right. But at least it was, Marvel trying to go, okay, this is how we would have to do these things to make it somewhat believable. I mean, it's all fantasy, but like what you guys are doing with Thin Blue Line, it's more reality based. So I think you really have to establish those things early on. And from what I saw, it looked like you guys were doing that. And then like you said, the guy that's drawing it is a cop, so he actually knows these moves.
Well, and that's another thing. He actually is also a practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it's double authentic. That's the first page of the comic too, unless we decide to shift a new splash page of her training, and she's actually earning her next level in the belt. It's not black belt that she's earning, but you're right. It's realism. And one of the cool things about this project, at least the campaign, is if we hit our goals, we are going to be donating to Adopt a Cop, BJJ, which stands for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What they do is they train officers on how to protect themselves and the perps with either in de-escalation or at least to protect themselves with these maneuvers so that they don't have to use lethal engagement when they're dealing with these people.
Right.
Also doing a couple of others with like a memorial fund and families of fallen officers. But the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a major element of the story. And yeah, our main protagonist, Valeria, is training in that. And her daughter's her biggest cheerleader. There's a lot of sweet drama in it too. I mean, it's not all action and thriller and stuff. There is some nice character development. I mean, Mike he's a good writer, and he's put all that in there. You could see this being a movie if Hollywood had that kind of courage.
Right. I remember Hack Studios in California. One of the guys that I worked with, his dad was a Long Beach police officer. And so, every once in a while he'd come into the studio, and I just find it fascinating, like day to day, like just stories. I love hearing them. And so he was talking about, like, he was a younger guy. And so, we were talking about non-lethal, and like fighting and stuff like that. And so, I was saying, like, it seems like, police officers pull out guns pretty quickly. And he said, yeah, he said, because it's de-escalation. You know what I mean? It should, for a normal person that's being, agitated or whatever, it should mellow them out. And so he told me a story of when he was younger that he didn't do that. So he thought, like, he would just kind of try to be not a nice guy, but, kind of be more of like, hey man, I'm going to bring you in, whatever, let's do this way. And so then the guy did not want to have anything to do with it, and he came at him. So he used the fact that there wasn't a gun and stuff to use it as opportunity. And he said that, during the fight, he had to constantly protect his gun, and it did go to the ground, like all these fights eventually, they end up on the ground. And and just like anybody that's been into a real fight, fights don't last like Hollywood. They're like minutes, because you're putting out every ounce of energy you have just to protect yourself, let alone, take that other person down. And it is exhausting, right? And so this guy is on the ground fighting this person, the cop is, and so he's realizing he's getting tired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That means death, right? Like, if you get tired, that means you're going to lose this fight. And so at that point, he broke away from the guy. He got up on his feet and he pulled the gun on him. You know what I mean? And then, he kind of had to learn that there is a reason for some of these things.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because, possibly if he would have came out with it at the beginning, it never would have escalated to that point. So what people have to realize, because there's some people that think that guns are evil, just the existence of guns, but a lot of times guns will de-escalate situations.
Yes.
A lot of times guns will humble things. Guns will stop things from getting out of control. You know what I mean? So it's not always just
absolutely, it's a deterrent.
Yeah, it's not always just the one thing, and that's what we have to remember. And that goes for police officers and for citizens.
Yeah.
If you take that out of the equation, then how would you defend yourself if, God forbid, something bad would happen to you or your family?
Yeah. Well, and they have neutral positions. I mean, police are trained if they've pulled out their weapon, to kind of hold it down, pointed down, but it's at the chest so that they can be really quick if it looks like they might need it, or they can have it out and in hand but pointed down. And they'll get there if they think that it could escalate, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are trying to escalate it. I mean, there's still, again, it's a safety issue. And I have thought about, whenever you pull somebody over, if you're a cop, you don't know who you're pulling over and you don't know what you're about to get into. So I recognize the fact that they are sometimes maybe gun shy. Is that the right word? I mean, I don't know. They're very cautious. Because they need to protect themselves, and particularly not just protect themselves, but they're trying to protect their community. And they also may need to apprehend you if you are running from the police, right? I mean, it's just law and order, but it's the ugly side of the fact that we live in a society that requires that sort of enforcement.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, well, probably more actually percentile, it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
Like most of the time, they pull you over. They write you a ticket for your taillight being out, and then you move along. But they have to prepare for that worst case scenario always. It's that one moment, that could be defining. Yeah, like life changing. And so they train for that one moment. You know what I mean? And that's a hell of a place to be. Like that's a disposition and a place that I can't even relate to. I'm so thankful there are people like that in the world that will take on that kind of responsibility and job, because I'm not wired like that. And I'm thankful that there are people that are. And when I see those people, I am Kurt. Even when I was a kid, I used to wave at. I'm still the same way. Like when I see an officer, I'm like, hey, how you doing?
I see when I'm driving down the road, I got my hands on the steering wheel. I'll just kind of for that. Like, I don't know if that's a habit from back in the days when I'd be like, hey, don't look at me. I know you, so you don't want to pull me over. I'm not a bad guy. But just out of courtesy, like when they pull you over, sometimes if you're really polite and you make sure that you fully show them that you are not a threat without talking crazy, just being real respectful.
I like that even when you're saying this, you're putting your hands so they can see them.
It's a visual.
So it's not talking crazy.
Feel the tension kind of lower a little bit, because they're spring loaded, right? They don't know what's about to happen. And man, I know you've seen those car dash videos where shit goes down, and it's really sad. I mean, it's almost like a snuff film. You'll see a guy get out and just start pow, 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 and jump back in his car and run off. And my God, could you imagine being the spouse or child and seeing your parent or spouse, that happens to them, and then that makes the news, and then you're reliving that over and over? Or maybe you've seen that and it's not happening to your family member, but you think that it could every night when they leave. So this is a hard job, and I respect the people that are willing to take it on. Obviously, I hate the people that take advantage of it. And obviously, evil is in the world, and we're all tempted to do the wrong thing, whether that's just lying to somebody, making ourselves look good, or taking more than our share, or just being cruel to somebody, or whatever, right? We all do that, and it's been done to us. So that's why I think forgiveness and grace are so important these days. But man, it's a whole nother level with police officers. They're the ones that are on this earth as these human forces of good, or they're supposed to act that way, and they don't get the respect they deserve. They used to, they used to get more respect than they do now, but so many evil people have been infiltrating areas of our culture of influence that it's almost like these communists. It feels like Marxist communists that have just come in, and it's like they sit around every day, like Mike said, and they just sort of work on these ways to undermine the country and our patriotism, and it's wickedness, and the people that clamor for diversity and inclusion, all that, you never see them outside NBA game stadiums demanding more Mexicans, more whites, more Asians on the team. I mean, it is what it is. It's all merit and how you get there and how much work you put into it. And sometimes, as hard as a man works, he'll never have a baby with live birth. I mean, there are some things that you just can't do. Yeah. And isn't it shocking that That's what Dave Chappelle said. Only women can have babies, and we're still talking about his comedy show 3 weeks later because people got butthurt over it. I mean, get over your fifis, man. If it's not for you, stop watching it. Right?
And
Stop
the
watching.
thing is, it's a fact. Like there are things that you can't really debate with. Like
I just don't care about your feelings.
there's a natural order to things. You know, it's like would you talk this way if it was a frog and
Yeah.
their reproduction? Would you talk this way if it was your puppy, your dog, or your cat, or whatever it is? No, you don't talk that way. But you talk that way with a human. Like, oh well, I take offense to the fact that you said men can't have a baby.
Mm.
Why?
Or men can't have a period. I mean, you should say, I mean, a totally gay society can't reproduce. Is that going to be, it can't naturally reproduce? Is that controversial, or is it just the truth? I mean, that's
It's just a fact. It's just a fact. Yeah. And why would you even debate it? It's ridiculous. I always think this, Chris. My dad didn't have a lot of formal education and stuff, but he tried later in life, and so he went like community colleges and stuff. So he took a psychology class, and so yeah, like it's psychology and then debate, debate classes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I always thought like what I hope that debate still exists on college campuses. And then I often think like, what is the debate? Like, because if you just debated like this whole reproduction thing, the thing, just that little thing, that we're talking about right now, like it wouldn't last very long in a real debate. You know what I mean? Because the other side would not be able to back up any of their beliefs. There's no fact, there's no science, there's no nothing, right? So in a real debate, in a real honest debate, it wouldn't hold any water. So a lot of this stuff does not hold any water. If you got into a debate about, defund the police, right? Pros and cons. There's no way defund police could win in a debate. In an honest, what we think is was the sane world, they wouldn't be able to even defend it.
Just think about it. What is accomplished by saying we're going to take more money away from the police department? What is the end game there? What is the win? What do you win if you take money away from them? What's happening?
What do you replace it with? Nothing? Like people are just going to be honest and nice and good to each other. Hey, I know enough about life to know that that's not going to happen.
You mean the jazz authorities up in Portland or Seattle weren't doing the job the cops are maybe doing it better? It's anarchy, and you know it, Art. And that's why, just like you said, that's a great point. If it was on a debate, any debate other than a CNN town hall debate, I guess, it wouldn't hold any water. Because what we should be doing is investing in our police for de-escalation training, for better community training, for better, not necessarily optics, but just more engagement with the community in ways so that maybe the community is educated about what the police are dealing with and being able to say, hey, what can we do to make the police have a better success in our community? Right. And how can we police and I think the community should have people policing their own community, but they even, what was the guy's name that killed Trayvon Martin that was policing his community? Well, that guy was probably doing the right thing and got demonized. And then I'm sure there were groups all over the country that had a similar system, neighborhood watch system, that said, we might not want to do that anymore. Let's just let the cops do it. So there's just been this long erosion of respect for law and order and authority figures, respect for authority figures in this country for years. And I don't, is Thin Blue Line, the graphic novel, going to stop that? I sincerely doubt it. I'd love to see some people change their minds for the good about American law enforcement, but I don't know that they will. But if nothing else, we can donate a few shekels to the efforts to help those law enforcement families and officers, help get a few more trained, and kind of uplift a few cops. I mean, I would like to see some cops grab some copies of this and share them around the precinct or whatever. I could just see this. I mean, yes, there's some PG-13 language in it, and there's a little bit of blood, but there's nothing gruesome and there's nothing obscene, if you know.
Right. Yeah.
Now my preacher would say there's some obscene language in it, and I'm not going to argue with him. But nonetheless, it is PG-13, so it's not.
And the thing is, it's just, it can even be what is it, cathartic. Just reading a story, like, just, because we see so much of our media going the other way. Just maybe something that actually has some. When I say reality, I mean it more like a logic, a sanity, like what we used to know the world as being. And so I think all good storytelling is also holding a camera up to kind of what's happening, and then trying to tell a good story based on that as a backdrop. So I think what Mike's doing and what you guys are doing is you're taking this as an opportunity, as a backdrop for this story of these two police officers just trying to make, I assume they get into a really bad situation and just try to make some sense out of it, and just try to, help as many people and get out of the situation alive. I kind of think that's where the story is going. And so
there's
I think
a couple of shocks and twists, but you're definitely on the right track. That is the overall arc of the story. And I think there will be some police officers who read it and go, man, that was a damn good story. That surprised me, that maybe they weren't expecting what it is. I mean, it's not, I used to love that show, The Shield. Did you ever watch that show on FX?
I know of it. I never watched it though. Yeah.
All the cops were dirty on that. So this definitely isn't that, but there was so much grittiness to it, and moments where you were just like, oh my gosh, did that really happen? So there are some of those moments here, but it doesn't paint cops as all, trash and corrupted, like kind of like The Shield did. But
Yeah.
I also like The Punisher, and The Punisher would go to jail in this world that Mike has created with Thin Blue Line.
Yeah, I used to watch that NYPD Blue, and then there was like there's always this character, or at least there used to be this character, a police officer that kind of doesn't follow the rules, right? Like they're a little bit of a rogue. It's kind of like, like Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not a cop today, Raj. that type of thing.
Right.
And so there, I started thinking about, because a creative person, you start thinking like, why do you cheer for this character? This character is not following the letter of the law. This character is not what we would consider a good cop. Yeah. But what they do in the storytelling is they show it from a very specific point of view. So you get to see the perp, you get to see the guy doing the bad. So you as the viewer knows that's a bad person beyond a shadow of a doubt, because you saw them commit the crime, right? And then you get to see Sipowicz, or whatever the character is, that's that gray area cop. And then he goes and he acts in a way that is not very cop-like. He acts the way you would react. If you saw a rape, you would go and you'd kick the shit out of that guy. You know what I mean? Or you'd pistol whip him and treat him like a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, you would do these things. And then I started thinking, like, why do we cheer for that guy? Because that's what we want. So it's not realistic. It's kind of what we want. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be careful with what you want, right? So
this is our flesh. It speaks to our primitive.
Right, like eye for an eye, to get biblical. Like you just want to see. You kind of like to see that, like instant judge, jury, and executioner. It's like, that's why the Punisher appeals. That's why Judge Dredd. Because you get to see. There's no due process. There's none of this lengthy kind of stuff. There's like this visceral justice that happens. And so then I was like, this is not the cop you really want.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're breaking the law and they are taking the law into their own hands.
Sure.
But on some level, you're still cheering for that guy, because that's what, you kind of want to see.
You want to see that justice. And the thing is they're meting out this vengeance, but us as the reader, we saw the crime, right? In other words, there's no doubt, there's no gray area.
Exactly.
Because we saw the crime as the reader, so we know a crime was committed. There's not some sort of, well, they have to get evidence, we have to prove it, they're not admitting it, and so on, because nobody else was there.
Right.
But we were a eyewitness. So it's easier for us to get along and cheer for it, because we do know, we're almost like we have sort of this God perspective removed from it, that we got to see through the walls in the dark, when nobody else was there. So I understand that. And there is some of that in this book. There are.
But I'm sorry, where I was going with it is that there are, we romanticize these characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you know, there may be cops that actually grew up on some of those things, and that maybe think that that is kind of what is expected. So then they kind of do take the law into their own hands at times and things like that. So
Bend the rules a little bit.
bend the rules, yeah, the ends justify the means kind of thing. And in black and white, that's why it's black and white, and that's why there's these two characters, the yin yang and stuff, because there's those two perspectives that are playing against each other. And I do think that that's human nature, you know, like there is this visceral like justice that you want, but then you realize in a civilized society, like Mike was saying, you can't have this. There has to be this due process. There has to be this kind of thing that happens. So there has to be like almost like this third party removal, right? There has to be a judge, there has to be a jury of your own peers, you know, and there has to be facts, and there has to be, you know, this whole thing that happens before we can put somebody, you know, away.
Sure.
And it's frustrating, but you know, if we didn't, then we would have, you know, we would have street justice. You know, even cops would then be dispensing justice willy-nilly at their own discretion.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and we need that because that protects us. Like we were talking about the Constitution earlier, that limits what the government can do. And without those limitations, this would be a hell of a worse world that we live in. I think liberty is so important to us, whether that's free speech or the right to bear arms or the right to trial by jury of your peers and so on. I mean, there's so many things that are put in place to limit what the government can do. It's not to limit what we can do. Those are
right.
mandates.
Yeah. And in the end, if you were the one that was brought in, like sometimes people are brought in, they're wrongfully brought in, like, yes. You know, and then so that there is a trial and then they're proved to be innocent, you know, so it works both ways. So as much as it can go, well, we'll put this guy away for the rest of his life, facts can be presented and then the jury can find them not guilty.
It's a great system. It's flawed, but it's a great system. You know, you mentioned earlier about cops that might bend the rules or kind of grow up with these sort of anti-hero figures. There has been debate about some of the cops that like the Punisher and having that sticker on their cars or whatever. And I think that most cops recognize that what they like about the Punisher is that he is on the street and he is willing to tussle with the bad guys on their level, right? Because the Punisher doesn't have any superpowers and he uses a firearm mostly, you know, just like a police officer will. So there is sort of this same angel of vengeance attitude. They just don't kill unless they're being shot at. And then obviously they are authorized. They have that license to kill, if you will. That the Punisher just takes upon himself without being authorized to do so. So I get that they like it, but you know, to me, it's no different than having a Superman sticker, which there might be a lot of men now scraping those off their cars and having their tattoos changed.
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Imagine. I'm sure they're not bragging about it either, right? Nobody's
right. Oh, Superman's gay. They're probably getting ribbed, you know, at the precinct and stuff like, oh, there's your hero.
Imagine if you are really a bigot. You know, just because you don't like Superman being gay does not make you a bigot. But could you imagine looking at your kid, your 6-year-old's got a Superman shirt on and you just found out what DC's doing and you're like, oh gosh, let's get you a Spider-Man shirt, at least until they screw him up, right?
Yeah. And just back on the point that we were talking about, like with Punisher and those kind of heroes that are in the gray area, you know, like cops and stuff. We have to remember those are fantasies.
Right.
So the reason they're written this way is because they want you to cheer for it, because that's what they're doing it for. But like with NYPD Blue, then they show also what sometimes, just to get balance, that cop pays the price for his actions. You know what I mean? Because you can't always be taking the law into your own hands and doing this. So then sometimes there's that other cop that keeps that cop in check. You know what I mean? Because there's partners, you know, so there's that give and take as well. So I think also that's why these stories are so compelling, like these police dramas and these things, because there's so much to it. There's these morality tales that are happening at split seconds. You know, every time they turn around, they're faced with this new decision. Like, do I do this? Do I do that? Like, you know, what's the law say? And versus what do I want to do personally? I just saw this heinous thing. Do I act on it the way I would like to, or do I, you know, uphold the law and go by the letter of it, you know? And it's hard. It's really hard for us. Well, it's hard for me to judge, because unless I'm in that situation, it's harder for me, you know, because I can just imagine, you know, what they're faced with, things like that. And so then when people just go automatically like, oh, that cop is bad, he did this. But sometimes there's circumstances that led up to that you still have to bring into it before you completely judge those situations. Like a lot of times, like the wrongful death or the beating of Rodney King and stuff like that. Well, Rodney King, he ran like usually when you show like aggression towards a police officer or you run, then the gloves are off, right? At that point, then it's like, this person is a serious, you know, threat. And so we're going to do whatever we have to bring him down. Was there excessive, you know,
I agree.
aggression?
I think it was.
Yeah, there was.
They were angry, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not forgiving it, but it's understandable in these situations where there's been this chase, there's been this fleeing suspect, and then they resisted and resisted. And you know, that's why it's so that's why you should just respect the cops and stop, so that you don't antagonize them, because they're humans. They're
Right.
people.
And they can get agitated, they can get pissed, and especially when, you know, either they see like citizens being like these car chases, you know, like all this stuff. I mean, just think about the sheer carnage that you can do with a moving vehicle. And then these people just, you know, they run because their green cards expired in California, or, you know, just shit like that, or they got drugs in their car. You know, the ends don't justify the means, dude. Like, you know, you could kill a lot of people,
dozens, and do so much damage, but
right?
You're just selfish because you're trying to protect yourself. I mean, I get it. Nobody wants to sit in jail, but dude, take the L. You got to. You're going to hurt somebody. You might hurt yourself.
Yeah, just pull it over and just deal with the consequences.
Take your L. Yeah, take your licks, man. You know, we all screw up. It's hard to accept sometimes, but you're right, man. You're right. It happens. And you know, cops are humans, right? I mean, just because you like The Shield, or you liked Hill Street Blues, or you identify with a cop who's being tempted to do the wrong thing or take it into his own hands, it doesn't mean that you're going to, right? Sometimes it's just entertainment. It's just, wow, I don't know what I would do in that situation. Imagine if you're a cop and someone, just imagine you, Art. Here's Art, T-Bear, and some criminal has come up and choked you, tried to choke you, beat you, shoot a gun right next to your face, shot you in the arm or the leg or something. Could you imagine just the mental trauma that would do to you and sort of your day-to-day? Okay, well, you've recovered from that beating, from that last arrest, time to go back out in the field and keep on doing your patrols. I mean, if somebody tried to somebody kicked my ass yesterday and it scared me and they were trying to kill me, I'm a puss, I guess. I'd be traumatized for several weeks, I bet. Like, wow, can you believe this happened? I'd want to tell everybody about it, get it off my chest, and go find a therapist or something.
Yeah, and at the very least, you're gonna probably be a little less trusting than you were the day before. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna be a lot more suspicious of people and stuff like that. Like, I love that Rolling Stones, I'm a rock guy. It's like, to all cops a criminal and all sinners saints. You know, and I like that, you know, because I think that's like how they survive, you know, like because I remember this lunacy when people were like, cops are profiling. No shit, they're profiling. That's how they stay alive. How do you think they figure out who's bad and who's good? They're profiling. They're going, you know what, that guy right there fits this type. that guy fits that type, you know. If we're all honest as human beings, we profile all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting in the elevator with someone, we're going, well, that guy looks very, you know, suspect. So I'm going to be on alert. You know what I mean? Or especially when you have a family and you have kids,
Sure.
you start really, as a guy, you start really summing those situations up, and then you try to guide your family away from potential problems just based on profiling, you know?
Well, situational awareness, right? I don't care what you look like. If I'm out on the street at night and there's some hoodlums coming down the sidewalk, I might change sides. I don't care what color they are or how tall or how fat or how strong or how weak or if they're armed or not. I might just go, hey, situationally, I know I'll be safer over here in case something goes bad, in case they're up to no good. Because evil knows no skin color or financial situation that you might be in, right? I mean, some of the wickedest, most violent people I've ever known were rich white people. I think that at the end of the day, there's plenty of people who are committing crimes that don't have a record, right? So you just never know. And it's situational awareness. You want to protect yourself. Even a car chase, if you're a police officer trying to chase somebody down that's shot their weapon at you, imagine the adrenaline rush from that when they crash and they're trying to crawl out of the car and then you're able to put them down. It would take a lot of restraint not to hurt that person.
Right.
So they do an incredible job. They have an incredible burden on them. I know they're not paid enough, and sadly they're not trained enough in some instances. And they're real world heroes. At least most of them are, and they should be. Just like our frontline doctors, just like our military, I think we should thank officers. I think we should thank law enforcement. And who knows, even one that's kind of leaning towards the bad side might straighten up and turn right if someone just showed some gratitude for the fact that they are risking their lives out there for the community, whether they're getting paid or not. Because, hey, believe it or not, our military gets paid, and so do our frontline doctors. It doesn't change the fact that they're doing a good service for society.
Right. I hate people that are like, instead of giving them sympathy, they go, well, it's their job. They're getting paid. They're getting paid to die. They're getting paid to get shot at. It's like, yeah. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that's really not what they're getting paid for. So they're human beings. Like, there should be compassion from society. We don't overly have to praise like everything they do. They're humans. They can screw up. They can do, horrible things too, and then we hold them accountable, just like we would anybody else in society.
Of course.
It doesn't matter whether it's a cop or just an average Joe. We hold them all accountable. The law is the law, and like you said, it doesn't discriminate. And so, cops should be held to the same accountability as somebody else. And but they do have a license to kill. They can use lethal force. So you do have to take that into consideration. So that's different than the average, citizen. So
right, and so they're in the midst of a battle of good and evil. They're in the midst of having to met out some sort of they have to execute some sort of force, then they are authorized to do it. So it is a whole nother level, just like the military, except in the military, you're not necessarily going out into the battlefield every day. But with the police, they essentially are, because, there's always crime going on. There's always something going on somewhere. We joke about the donuts, the donut meme, but man, give them a break, let them indulge and have a flipping donut. They're getting shot at. You want some ice cream too? Here, man, better you than me. Keep your vest on, right? Make sure it fits.
And listen, who doesn't like a donut?
Yeah, come on, give them a break.
Come on. Let me hit this. Let me hit this refresh. So we're at 17 backers. Let's see. 20 backers. So 17, 18, 19, 20, you got 3 more backers. So I think we got like 6 or 8 backers just since we've been live streaming.
Thanks for the tremendous signal boost, man. We couldn't have had a better inaugural stream to kind of launch this thing. We got 20 backers this morning since we launched. I know we'll get dozens, if not hopefully hundreds more. Hopefully people can get out and signal boost and share this thing. And particularly, I don't know how to reach law enforcement, right? With Bleeding Full, what I'm reaching are media geeks and comic book lovers and people that just sort of follow those sorts of entertainment, geek related hobbies. But man, I want to try to get at least the news to some law enforcement to know that we're not protecting them, and we're not trying to make them into martyrs or superheroes, but man, we got their back, and we really want them to know about this. So if anybody that's watching your show can at least share it with a cop that they know or somebody they know that knows a cop, man, I think that would be great. And they may not back it, but they may just get kind of tickled and feel better. This may be sort of that expression of gratitude they didn't get that day. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So if anybody knows anybody that can get them in touch with Chris, and let's see what can happen. I do have to ask you about this lady cop. What is this all about?
You remember those DC first issue special when DC was they would try out some new character for a single issue, and if it hit a lick or not, right, they would turn it into a regular series or ongoing something or other.
Right.
And the character they did back in 1975 from issue number 4, it was always funny. First issue special was the name, but this was issue 4. And I sort of over here in the corner.
Oh, wait, are you on camera? Is this something you're going to show?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll come back. I saw that book. That was over there next to your stack, right?
Yeah.
So you're a proud owner. Here,
I'm a proud owner of the first appearance of Lady Cop.
Hold it up.
Yeah.
You're full screen now. Oh my gosh, proud owner. That thing looks like it's in mint condition too.
It's in good shape. This is Mylar, so don't be fooled. But I flipped through it, checked it out. It's kitschy and it's quaint. It's not at all like what we see here, but it is a female police officer, and she does get out in the streets and deal with crime. So we are sort of the spiritual successor to the Lady Cop.
Yeah. Well, the book looks great. The campaign looks fantastic. Would you mind if because I think I'm like 3 days out from Black and White. Can I
plug it, baby?
Yeah,
Yes.
Let's do it. All right. So I think I hit all the right buttons this time. All right. So here's Black and White, Volume 2, Man versus Machine. This is the epic conclusion to the origin story of Whitney Sung, aka White, and Reed Blackett, aka Black. Let me hit this video here.
From RT there comes the exciting conclusion to the Black and White origin saga. 60 pages of pulse-pounding action. In a world where law and order are often blurred to gray, justice can only be black and white. Man versus machine.
The video's great.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's Red Gaze put that video together. He's amazing. We are at 80,589, and we got 973 backers. So it looks like we can hit that 1,000 backers. That's a sweet spot. You know that, Chris, for like printing, like you get price breaks for printing. For all your vendors and everything like that. So yeah, it says 4 days, but like at 3:00 today, it'll be 3 days. So Monday will be our last day. So, I know there's some people that wait till the last, couple days to back. So you guys just know, that there is 3 days. There's only 3 days. So this is the main cover right here, done by myself and the great Stefani Renee on colors. We have a variant by Kenneth Racaport. This is for Volume 2 as well. I still can't believe I got Kenneth to do a cover. We got the incredible Joe Bennett, who volunteered for this service, for this duty right here. And he got canceled by Marvel in a big way. I can relate a little bit to that. I got canceled as well. And so we were just talking, and he just said, hey, let me do a cover for Black and White. And so this is what came out of it. He goes, well, what do you want me to draw? I go, just draw Black and White fighting robots. And hell, man, he just kicked it here. And I showed this to the guys in the CG green room. And Kyle Ritter said, I have to put colors on this. So this is the great Kyle Ritter on color work here. So this is a great jam between Joe, myself, and Kyle. So I think the cover came out amazing. And let me see, there's a little bit, like, people like to compete against the two variants, but we have the Joe Bennett cover, which is at 41 claimed. And then we have the, where is the Racquefort cover? Where is that? Oh, there it is.
Yep.
And the Racquefort cover is 63. So Joe Bennett came in about half the campaign, and he's closing in on Kenneth's cover. So if you guys like that Bennett cover, back it and see if we can get this little friendly competition, close that gap a little bit.
You just got to hit 26 more backers. Let's get that number too. That 1,000, man, that's massive.
Oh yeah. That's going to help out with printing and everything like that. So we have the 22-page High Octane Adventure. This is Von Klaus of Monster MD fame and Pedro Eng, who is CG born. This guy just was hanging out in my chats, and he did an animated drawing of Black and White, and I was like, this is so good. Slow burn. A couple months later, I was like, let's do a book together. Yeah. So it was all.
I like Von a lot too. His book was incredible.
Yeah, Monster MD is fantastic. It's one of my favorite CG books. Yeah. Pedro Eng just came in and just basically made this happen. Like, this book wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Pedro. So thank you so much, Pedro. CG is the best. There's talent in these chats, Chris, that we have not even seen yet. Yeah,
man. So much love out there too. It's really a community.
Yeah. And so then you guys wanted a second chance at the first volume. And so we were completely sold out of issue 1. So this is the second printing of issue 1 with a brand new cover on it. And this is Kyle Ritter's colors over my pencils as well. So Kyle gets around.
What a talent. My gosh.
He's so good, man. I remember Kyle before CG, like, I would do these commissions, Chris, and so I would just post them, on my social media, and then Kyle would just color them and send them back to me. He just did it for fun, and so I would post them around. And then when I saw the launch of Cyberfrog, I was like, Kyle Ritter on colors, Kyle Ritter, and I was like, why do I know that name?
Yeah.
And so then I went back to it was DeviantArt at the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, all these color things. This is all Kyle Ritter. And so I feel kind of like I knew Kyle before he became like a huge success. What I mean?
Before he was a superstar. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a diamond in the rough. It's like
now CG's got Gabe in the mix now, so that's going to be a nice competition head to head.
Yeah, and Gabe and I worked with each other a lot at DC Comics. So yeah, he is fantastic as well.
Great.
Yeah, we got some A-list talent here, you guys.
Heavy hitters.
I got this great Capullo variant. The one on the left is completely sold out. The one on the right is only available in the Black and White Jam tier. So that's the 145, and you get all the books plus a trading card plus the mini print. The only book that isn't in this is the Joe Bennett one, because that did come along later. But if you want to get all the books, you can get the Joe Bennett as an add-on. So all these books you can get as an add-on, with the exception of the Capullo. You can only get that in the Jam. And so then we have the original story layout pages. So this is the only original artwork that I have as a tier at this moment in time.
I thought that was cool too. Yeah, those are fun to have.
like little behind the scenes, work in
Yeah.
progress art. And so when you get the actual book, you can compare it to the page that you own. And yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. And I'm a big fan of all that behind the scenes stuff as well.
Yeah.
So you can get this. You can also get those as add-ons. The original sketch tier has been sold out, but I do believe there are some as add-ons. So if you want me to draw for you, we might still have some as add-ons. So we do have 2 places that you can get original artwork, so I stand corrected. But the tier itself is sold out. And so then you guys have been kicking it. So we've unlocked all kinds of stretch goals. So we just unlocked that 80K stretch goal, which is the UV enhancements on the main cover. That's going to make this book sing. And so we are looking at the 85K. And I do believe we can do it. It's going to take a lot of work, but I do believe we can do it. So this is the fan art trading card set, you guys. So this is going to be a contest. So once we unlock this, you guys start drawing a bunch of images, send them along to me. And my wife and I are going to pick 5 of the best. And then you guys are going to get trading cards made of your original artwork, your black and white drawings. And so you'll have your own set of trading cards, which I think, oh, go ahead.
That's awesome. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun. And once again, it's finding those diamonds in the rough. You know, there's a Pedro Ang out there. And if we can shine a little light on them with this contest, then I think that's great. And then you're going to get, you know, maybe your first published work, which would be in the form of a trading card. So I remember I did some Who's Who pieces for DC in the day. And so, you know, we all start somewhere, you know, like you start small and then, you know, your career takes off. So that's what this is kind of designed as. And then everybody gets to benefit from your art. So everybody that backs a book will get this trading card set. So far, if we can unlock this 85, or when we unlock this 85K, there will be 7 trading cards just in the form of these stretch goals. And then if you back a tier with 3 books or more, you'll get a trading card as well. So already there's 8 trading cards, potentially 8 trading cards with this campaign.
I may need to go back and increase my backing. You have to get back in there.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate, Chris, and I appreciate everybody that has backed this, everybody that has shared this on their social media. We are building an empire here, you guys. Comicsgate is strong, and it just keeps building every day. And I do have to put, you know, we're trying some merch in this. I know, Chris, when you did Florida Man, you had all kinds of merch. You had T-shirts, you had towels, you had lunch boxes and everything. Yeah. So this is really kind of my first go around with some merch. So please support the Inko T-shirt. That's the Hack Shack Studios mascot. Inko is CG born as well. That came out of a chat, a live stream. And then we just added these. So this is the black and white wraparound tees. Mm-hmm. So this is Shay. This is Red Valkyrie that came up with these designs. Oh, and, yeah, she's fantastic. I did a live stream with her, and then after the stream, she's like, "Hey, let me take a shot at making some T-shirts for you." And she came up with 3 great designs, and it was really hard to pick one, but this is the one. And so it wraps the side, you guys. So the front has white, and then it kind of wraps the side, and then on the back there's black. And so over the chest, there's the yin yang gun sight. And then on the one side, there's the Hack Shack Studios logo and the black and white logo. So this thing is well designed. It's really, really good. And it's a little bit more expensive than some of the other shirts, but the printing process is it's a wraparound. Yeah. It's a little bit more expensive to make, but I think they look fantastic. And so then we also have the larger sizes here, and these are available as add-ons as well. Most of the stuff is available as an add-on. So you guys, please come by, check out Black and White. We're 4 days out, and I think we just went up. Yeah, we just went up. So thank you guys. You're the best. And let me come back to Chris. And
You're
Chris
going to
is
hit
here.
6 figures, Art. I know you are. I mean, if you go in demand, are you going to go in demand if when it wraps up? What's the plan?
Yeah, we're going to go in demand. But you know as well as I do, the live campaign numbers are
That
the ones that
trickles.
are the impressive numbers. You know, because anybody in the know, even if you're in demand and you hit that 6 figures, they know that you know they see your original figures. And they go, well, you made up that whatever in demand. So the higher you can get in the live campaign, the more impressive. That's why somebody like John Malin, who doesn't go in demand, those numbers are like that's for like a month and a half, 2 months worth of campaigning, and that's really impressive, you know.
I
So
appreciate about Comicsgate and how it sort of evolved into this community that guys like you and Malin and Dan Fraga and others actually do lift up some of these, amateur artists and kind of, we'll include that, or we'll retweet that, or we'll bring them on, or we'll, like what you're doing with the trading card competition. I just think that's incredible. That these people that grouse about the Gators or whatever, they're not doing anything for independent artists. They're not doing anything for undiscovered talent. They're just trying to look out for themselves and virtue signal, to try and blame these supposed terrible people in CG, while they sniff their own flatulence. You guys are actually making a difference, and that's why CG continues to grow and develop new and exciting stuff rather than just another Kryptonian superhero. And I'm impressed, and I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of what you're doing, Art, and obviously we're cheering you guys right along.
well, you're part of this, Chris. I mean, you're behind the scenes, like with Florida Man, and with now Thin Blue Line. So you know, and then with Bleeding Fool. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
you
I'm
know,
not. Well, I have so much more respect for the people that are actually doing the writing, doing the creating. I don't mind being a manager of it. I don't mind being a signal booster of it, and obviously I'm proudly affiliated with Comicsgate. I don't care if you don't like them or not. That I'll explain why if we need to get into a debate with somebody about it. But I'm not a actual creator of the art, which I admire it. I mean, I've loved comics forever. All these boxes back here speak to that, obviously, and so I have utmost respect for you and Ethan Van Sciver and Dan Fraga and Shane Davis and Dale Keown and just on and on. If I tried to list them all, I couldn't. But there's new voices every day, and I think as long as the corporate-owned comic books continue to try to reach audiences that don't care about comic books, you're going to see this exodus of talent that at least we can all come together and say, look, I'm just trying to make good comics that comic readers want. We're not trying to preach to people, which is what it seems like the corporate comics are wanting to do. And I think it's a mistake.
yeah, I agree, and it's weird because I'm just a realist, right? So you just keep thinking, how far can we go?
Yeah.
And then whenever I start like doubting, like, have we maxed out? I'll look at a new campaign, or I'll go on somebody's stream and I'll go, no, this is still just the beginning. You know, we're 3 years into this now, and this is still just the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Eric says we are building an empire. Imperial March starts playing, and we got skits. Speaking of just like books that are like unconventional and just artistically setting a new high bar. Skits Comics, his book is fantastic. So just a great guy too.
Skits Comics book. I've heard Skits comic, but I don't. Which comic? What's the name of the comic? Is it Skits?
It's Skits, yeah. So it's Michael and his wife, and they put on a good YouTube show as well. I've had Michael on the show before. I got to get him back on because he's a lot of fun to hang out with. So he does like
feature these guys. And listen, if there's any indie creators out there that have a crowd fund, every Wednesday we try to feature generally three crowdfund indie comic projects. I think we've had you on, Art, or maybe since you're such a big name, we probably just did a full length piece. But for these indie creators that have crowdfunded projects that are live, the campaign needs to be active, we'll feature you on our Wednesday Indie Comic Showcase. Just send an email to contact@bleedingfool.com and say, hey, I want to get my book featured. It's free. We don't charge for that. And we'll just send you some interview questions and swipe some panels and pages from your campaign, link to it, and put it up there and promote you.
Yeah, it's good exposure, and that's how this is working. We all got each other's back. We all promote each other, and that's why it works, because it's not mandated. It's not a corporate mandate. There's no rules and regulations. We're basically, it's cooperation by design. Like we're just hanging out, helping each other, and there's no real egos or conflict for the most part, because we all realize that it's so interconnected, right? So we're all reliant on each other. So if it doesn't even serve any of our purpose to screw each other over, because as soon as you do that, then the rest of the group is going to go, oh my gosh, you're not playing by the rules, and they're gonna kind of just do their own distancing just naturally from you. So it doesn't even benefit you not to play well. And so it's kind of like this natural checks and balances that exist. And I don't know if anybody, Chris, had this overview, or if this just kind of happened organically, this way of marketing comics and getting in front of consumers, and this consumer movement. Like it almost seemed like, I've been here since almost the beginning. And so it feels like it just happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was some conflict and there was some tension early on, but then it seems like it's stabilized, and now it's just kind of like moving in this direction that feels like somebody had to have designed this. Somebody had to have gone, this is how it's all going to work. And I swear to you guys, I've never had conversations like that. As long as I've been here, there's never been like, this is how we're going to conduct business. Like they used to say, oh, you guys are gatekeepers, you're this, that, and the other thing. And to be honest, I've never been part of any conversations that said, you know what, this guy is bad, but this guy is good. I've never been part of anything like that. So I think there's parts of, there's a bunch of individuals, some people you get along with more than others. So then you have them on your show, but it's not like you're gatekeeping. It's just like, I like hanging out with Chris and Mike Barron. You know what I mean? So so then we hang out, and then, you might do a Bleeding Fool article, and that's just because, you like hanging out, but it's not like gatekeeping. It's not like you just go, well, we don't want this guy part of this or that guy. It's not like that.
Well, you might, if that person betrays everybody, you know what I mean? That might come up, but people do feel left out sometimes. And man, I get so many emails to Bleeding Fool about people wanting stuff featured or covered or whatever. You just can't get to everybody. And sometimes you are trying to entertain. You're not just doing YouTube shows because you have to fill some sort of quota. You want your viewers to tune in and it to be interesting content, interesting people. And you can't always ascertain that from a stranger if they're going to be interesting or where they might go. There is a little bit of, I wouldn't call it gatekeeping, but you have to have a little bit of discernment so that things don't go sideways, right? Because the people are prone to screw up. Like right now, I could have a sudden tick and just start saying the craziest stuff, and you'd have to hit that mute button, or, hey, that's the end. Here's the black and white.
See you later, Chris.
Yeah. But you're right. Ethan Van Sciver, who he didn't really start it. He was just doing the comic pro secret stuff, right? He didn't kind of get into the talking about the outrageous behavior of the comic book media and so forth, but it was always there. People would complain. People were complaining about CBR and their forums before Richard Meyer got banned from there. It's not, but we had these voices. One of the guys that contributes to Bleeding Fool is Avi Green. Well, you had Avi Green, you had Captain Frugal, you had Captain Cummings, you had Doug Ernst. You had guys that were out there talking about the poor behavior, but most guys, even in the day, I think Ethan Van Sciver still worked for DC. He hadn't gotten fed up yet, right? So you had these guys on the opposite end of the political thought spectrum, like B. Clay Moore, that would do a crowdfund for their book and then never deliver it, right? So then guys like you and Ethan and others came and said, you know what, we're going to do comics that are fun, but we're going to deliver it. We're actually going to make it, Doug TenNapel even doing these cool boxes, Mike Miller. And I know I'm throwing names out there that not everybody likes anymore or whatever, but these are the founding people of sort of this movement, or at least they informed it. You know what I mean? Because there's plenty of people who used to like this guy or that still back this guy, even though they like this guy, right? Again, it's relative and it's certain degrees. And we all have our own interests. Some people don't like certain sorts of artwork,
But also, it wasn't like CG went, "Hey, Doug, see you later."
Right.
It wasn't like CG went, "Hey,
no,
Mike,
he left. Yeah.
Go away." So there wasn't, there wasn't that. And what I find is that there's still people that support Doug, that support me or other campaigns, and
Ethan, I'm sure. Yeah.
And across the board. So it is like, I don't ever want to be, that guy because you like what you like. And we still have freedom in this country, and if you want to like this guy or that guy or support this person or that person, I'm not going to tell you not to. I think it would be very arrogant and pompous of me to do that. So if you want to do whatever you want, put your money where your mouth is. If you believe in this guy, then so be it. I mean, the ultimate judge. I mean, if you think about it, they're judging, and they're with their wallets. You know what I mean? They're actually supporting you and saying that they like what you're doing. So who am I to go, well, you can't like Mike if you like me, or whatever.
Keep your name anonymous on your contribution if you want, so that nobody knows, right? I mean, but buy what you want. I mean, at the end of the day, buy what you want, back who you want. It doesn't matter if people are having little spats about stuff. That's just creative. People have spats and disagreements.
Yeah.
And mentioning Ethan and Doug, they don't talk about each other anymore. I mean, occasionally I know that Ethan is very good at ribbing and jazzing and razzing people, but man, he's just got a knack for that. The guy is a natural entertainer in the Don Rickles school of things, He's funny. He's not nice all the time. Sometimes he's very genuine and very nice, but other times he's very sarcastic and very clever. But nice guys finish last in this business, and bad guys hopefully finish even dead last. And I don't think Ethan's a bad guy at all. I think he's done a massive service to this independent comic book. It's a rising tide, literally, of what's going on. 2 million copies of Cyberfrog last year, or $2 million on
dollars. Yeah.
Somebody tell me what the closest thing to that is that's anywhere close to that sort of superhero comics, science fiction comics. It's not out there. It's not out there. So what a tremendous achievement, and that's why they hate him. And that's why you got guys like Kurt Busiek smacking down Gabe, saying, "Oh, he didn't quit. He got fired." No, he basically it's like you go to the wedding and you're about to get married, and then you say, "No, I don't, and I'll tell you why." Well, yeah, she dumped him when he said that, but he knew she was going to dump him. It's not like Gabe went on the CG stream not knowing that DC was going to get pissed. It was over in his mind. He had already made up his mind. So why not go on there and shout it to the world how you feel? If they're going to give him a couple more coloring gigs or not, so be it. C'est la vie. He's out. And I commend him. He stood for his values. And I think more people are going to start doing that because DC is not going to pump the brakes. They are not going to pump the brakes.
I'm going to slow down. Yeah. Yeah. They're going to double down on it. I mean, it's look what Marvel did, and DC's going to follow suit. It's a shame because we all love these characters.
Yes.
But you know what? There's also, I've been doing this long enough that there's these moments in time. There's these like this decade it defines by this. This decade is defined by this, and so it goes in cycles. So oh man, my dog. if we can sustain it, I think Superman will be back. Truth, Justice, American Way, at some point.
Man.
And
I
we'll,
appreciate your hopefulness, buddy. But Star Wars is dead. James Bond is dead. I mean, they did revive Ghostbusters, so maybe you're right. But right now, man, I'm just grousing. Art, I appreciate you having us on the show today.
yeah. We should wrap this up. But I also just want to say that my optimism is 10 years down the line. It's not like I'm thinking they're going to change tomorrow. I'm thinking like a decade from now that things will go back and right themselves. So yes, it was a blast hanging out with you. Thanks for coming on. Thanks to Mike Barron for coming on early on. Thin Blue Line is the book. Let me just hit it real quick. I'm going to see. I'm not going to go there, but I'm just going to hit refresh and see if you got some more
we're
backers.
Almost at 20% backed, man. That's great, Art.
You got 3 more backers. You kind of go in threes.
Click,
so you're at 23 backers now.
Back
so
to blue. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we said 8 backers, 8, 9, 10. So you're like 10 or 11 backers during this live stream. So way to go, you guys. It's a great book. Mike Barron has been. I before we went live, I asked Mike, like, how long have you been doing working in the comics industry? And he goes, 40 years. And I go, oh my gosh, like I could have swore you've been working longer than I have. You know what I mean? Because I'm coming up on 40. So Mike's got maybe a couple years on me, because I remember getting Nexus before I was working professional.
That was his first one, was Nexus, and that's how he got the gig at Marvel.
Right. And so I remember being a fan, like a comic book fan, and getting the Nexus magazine.
He just doesn't want to tell you how old he is, Art. That's all.
I think, but he was coming up with dates and stuff. He's saying like early 80s. So
well, he knows Comic Book DB is down, so we can't verify.
We can't verify it. Yeah. It turns out he's been doing comics for 60 years.
100 years. Yeah, he created Superman.
That would be hilarious. So
hail Comicsgate, hail Art, hail Black and White Volume 2. Are you going to do another volume? I mean, what's next? I've been curious. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, we have an epilogue that we just unlocked with the campaign, and so that was 4 pages, new pages.
No. I mean next. I mean,
I know. I'm getting to that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna recap the story. Well, not recap it, but we're gonna kind of like put a little bow on the end of like the story proper, and then we're going to give you an idea of where the story is going to go after that. So we're going to tease a little bit of where the next story arc is going to go in that epilogue. Now, do you see where I'm going, Chris?
Yes.
I'm steering it back to this campaign.
You are, man.
Yeah. So then, if you buy volume 2, then you'll get an idea of where the next story arc is going to go. And yes, there is going to be another story arc, and we're going to do one and dones moving forward.
Awesome.
So my co-writer Joe Fulton and I are going to figure out how to do this, because these are epic stories, and we're thinking that we're going to probably be doing 100-page formats. But then I have to figure out financially how to make that work. Are we going to still charge 25, for the book, or is it going to be a little bit more? So there's a little bit of behind the scenes stuff that we have to work out, but there's definitely going to be another Black and White, and there's definitely going to be another Chrono Mechanics. So very good. Yeah.
I would love to talk sometime. We occasionally will DM each other on Twitter and whatnot. I want to talk to you a little bit about campaign stuff, which might bore people, but you put out a good product, and you can always look at, well, where can we cut corners so that I can keep the price down? There's always that balancing act between making it affordable, but also recognizing that you're a boutique and you're putting out a niche product with very low print runs, relatively to what the major publishers do. So whereas DC can put out a square bound 80 page and sell it for $10, that's just not conceivable for an independent guy that's doing it out of his house. And for everybody to get paid. And, I'd love to talk to you sometime, because I can see this eventually being to where the book is available, bam, just like that. But it's a shift. They're shifting sands right now. Joe Biden is screwing up the country. Pete Buttigieg just got off his maternity leave, and he's discovered that the shipping lines are backed up, and maybe he wants to do something about it, like add more hours or something, even though California's booting out the truck drivers. But so paper costs are changing, shipping costs are changing. It's almost a protective measure to keep the prices where they are. And John Malin gave me some very good advice about campaigns too. I think that eventually this can shift to where we're all doing this sort of collective measure without it being communist Marxism, where we're all just continuing to put out damn good product, but we're able to put it out faster, thicker, stronger, and higher quality than anything you're going to see from DC or Marvel. Those companies are committing seppuku. It's over, at least for DC. I mean, you may have a fondness for them, but I don't know. I'm going to put my prediction now that DC is going to wind up getting sold to somebody. Maybe Disney and Marvel will buy them up, and then it'll be crossovers forever.
Well, just for the record, Chris, I'm not contradicting what you're saying.
Okay.
They're going to crash and burn. I mean, they are committing, suicide right now. But I'm just saying that I think from the ashes, somebody will realize that why these characters were great is because of these morals. Taking the American way out of Superman was completely ridiculous. Just all the stuff that they're doing. And I do think that there is a silent majority that I put a lot of hope in this country. And so I think as soon as they have a voice or they start being heard, I think things are going to shift and they're going to change.
They've got to get back to red meat. Yeah, they got to get back to serving red meat. They're trying to serve tofu and veggie burgers. That's the way I look at it. I mean, we all want the red meat, and they're saying, no, this tofu is what you need. This is inclusive. And I'm like, no, just go back to what brought me in to begin with. Why are you doing this bait and switch?
Well, tofu is goo. It's just like molded shit. Like you know what? Like we already have Spam.
Have you seen OMAC? I mean, come on, man. It's the Big Mac. No, it's the OMAC. Wait a minute. What's this made of?
Yeah, it's made of just like melted down ingredients. And you know what? If you like it, fine. Yeah. But you know what? Don't criticize because I like a good, double cheeseburger or a steak or whatever. You know what I mean? Like in California, Chris, I kid you not, there were signs, billboards on the side of the road that said, eating red meat is killing. It's, and then they would show like slaughtered cows or whatever. It's like, listen, you can do whatever you want, but that cow is still delicious and I'm going to eat.
Thank you. Even God, if you read the Old Testament, even God liked the smell of burning meat, cooking meat. He loved that scent. So
yeah,
it's more like God. Throw it on the grill, man. Let's do this.
It's primal. It's primal. Yeah, and there's a lot of we can go on, but let me get this super chat. Thank you so much, Michael. I got my dog here. Can you go outside the box? Black and white and chrono mechanics. Do a different book, and also art should be different from 2022. Expand. I do have a lot of different IPs. I have a lot of ideas, but at the same time, there are stories that are just dying to get out with black and white. So, and also there's kind of brand recognition. So I think I want to stay with chrono and black and white for a while, at least put out another volume for each one of them. And then, like I said, I got probably 4 or 5 different IPs that I developed for Hollywood in the form of animation and TV shows that I could easily turn into comic books. So it's all the above, man. It's all the above. It's just time and money. That's all it comes down to.
Well, I get what they're saying too, Art. I would love to see, how you did a poll for your shirts? You sort of was like, do you like this? Do you like that?
Yeah.
If you've got other IP ideas that you just do a nice pinup of and say, hey, we're thinking about running, after you do your next volumes of these books, just maybe run a little poll and say, what do you guys think of these characters? What would you like to see me do next? I appreciate the sentiment because you're a fantastic artist, Art.
Thank you. What I would like to do is somebody like Chris, you could pull this off, is a CG anthology book where like the CG creators could do like 8 to 12 page stories and do maybe 3 stories per book. And then so people like me could take a chance on a new IP and make a one and done, 8 to 12 page story. It'd be more like, it would be a like it would be a complete story, but it would be in the form, like it would be a short story,
Yeah, that's a
just to kind
tremendous
of
idea.
give
A lot
like
of
some
people, I,
variety.
I hear people say they don't like anthologies. I love them. I used to
I do
love,
too.
but I grew up on those old Bronze Age adventure DC comics, or the horror comics, which have multiple stories, some shorter, some longer. And there's
Uh-huh.
so much talent that I think that might be something worth exploring.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. Yeah. I should go. This dog.
Yeah, let's do this. Art, man, I appreciate it, brother. This has been fun. It's been a while since we got to talk face to
I think
face.
that's why it's like the conversation's so good. I'm having a good time. Like I just don't want to end it, but this dog needs to go outside.
Yeah,
So
take out.
thanks
Get
again. Yeah,
that
and go
1,000
back.
backers, baby.
Yeah, go back. Thin Blue Line. It looks like it's doing good. I'm gonna hit refresh real quick to see if you got a couple more backers. Yeah, you got another backer. Let me check Black and White. We're at 974. 975. So we got another backer as well. So this is
Dude,
great for everybody. It's a win-win. Yay! What do you
rising
think?
tide. Thanks, Art, man. I appreciate it. Love you, man. Love the group.
What do
Love
you
the
think,
community. You
Arrow?
get some good fans out there, brother.
Say hi to everybody, Arrow. All right, man. Let's see if I can hit this leave studio button. Take care, Chris. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks to everybody for hanging. Take care. I can't hit. Stop it, dog. Stop it. I can't hit the button.
I appreciate it.